Hello everyone, welcome inside the MontanaSports.com studios. Richie Melby here, chatting a little bit about the sports weekend that was. One of the big ones, of course, Cats and Grizz each advancing in the FCS playoffs. Montana State at home this Friday night, 6 o'clock against Austin Peay. Montana Grizzlies, meanwhile, they're on the road in a rematch against Weber State down there in Ogden, Utah. Again, those Friday night games, 8 o'clock for the Grizz. Won't even be over by the time we're trying to talk about it at MontanaSports.com and MTN Sports for the 10 o'clock news. But of course, it was a bit of a holiday for the prep wrestling community in Montana this past weekend. It was opening weekend, some big tournaments taking place, and I was actually gone for all of it. Las Vegas for a wedding. Congratulations, Mandy and Cody. Look forward to putting together your guys' wedding video. But we came back to some great results, and we thought we might chat about it a little bit, catch up with some coaches, some athletes, and recap the week that was. If everybody's interested and likes it, might be something we do throughout the season a little bit. And of course, it didn't get any bigger than the Sydney Eagles Invite. It's been going on for 30-plus years now. Coach Guy Melby and the Sydney community welcoming teams from 6 different states, of course, and a lot of them from right in Montana. And the Eagles winning that hometown tournament. How about this? 253 points for the defending Class A state champions, besting state AA champ Bozeman, who had 196. Then Rapid City, Columbia High, Post Falls, Minot, those out-of-state teams going 3 through 6. Billings Senior was in there at 7th, Lake Stevens 8th, Billings West was 9th, Billings Skyview 10th. So it was our Eastern Montana contingent that was in there in the team standings, and we're not going to go through all of the results. You can find those each weekend at MontanaSports.com, of course, and this weekend's results have been posted. But 138, 3-time defending champ Leif Schroeder of Bozeman kickstarting his season the right way. A fall at 5:16 over Miles City's Damian Leadholt. So Schroeder, one of those 3 chasing 4-time championships, of course. Bibler from Frenchtown, and then John Mears at Belgrade would be the other right there. But 126 pound could be a weight class to watch in Class AA throughout this season. That, of course, depends on if these boys stay in that weight class. But a couple of Billings fellas, Matthew DeWitt of Senior getting the win over Drake Rhodes of Billings West. I heard Rhodes was put in a tough spot in that one, but DeWitt gets the win there. And at 132, and really all across the state in some different weight classes, pay attention to some of these phenomenal freshmen that are coming into 2019-2020. Bozeman's Avery Allen is going to be one of those, and he goes past Lane Reardon, a Post Falls defending state champion by Tech Fall for Avery Allen. Again, just a freshman. He's 5-0. According to TrackWrestling.com, so keep an eye on him. And then at heavyweights, Colstrip's Trey Yates getting past Bozeman's Tom Walkup. Those 2 boys should be competing on Saturday at your state tournaments in Class BC and Class AA. But Sydney, 3 champs for the Eagles down there for Coach Guy Melby, who we had a chance to catch up with via phone on Monday, kickstarting the season the right way. Well, Coach, thank you very much for joining us. 6 states represented in the big Sydney Eagle Invite over the weekend, and your Eagles coming on top of that, of course. 253 points, I guess it was. Bozeman runner-up, 196, and then Rapid City in third with 152.5. Seeing 6 states and some of these great kids that come in, how beneficial is that for all the wrestlers that were there this weekend?
Well, that's what we're trying to accomplish. We get Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Washington, and then Nebraska. So, we're trying to, in Montana, to get competition, a lot of times, you got to travel all over the place to get it. Well, we're trying to bring them in here so, people don't have to travel so dang far, and they can come and get some really, really good competition before it starts, So, and that, those teams that are coming, most of those guys I've either done camps with or for, and we've become pretty good friends over the years. And, we just kind of tell them about our little tournament that, 33 years ago started as about 6 teams, and now it's pushing 30. So it was fun. Fun weekend for everybody, I think.
And obviously it's pretty fun when you can be crowned the team champion at your home tournament and then have a few individuals. Dylan Lutz, I believe, was one, Riley Waters, and Jet Jones. Maybe tell us about those 3 and kind of the expectations of them coming into this season.
Well, yeah, they wrestled really tough. We come out of here with 12 placers, I believe, which is, a really good reason why you get 253 points, So that part of it was really exciting. And as long as we can continue to do that. I think if you place in the top 8 in this tournament, I think you're pretty good. We also had a dual tournament the first day, and we put our guys, or we put our teams into brackets, so we see the top 8 teams there in the A pool, and then there's a B pool and a C pool. So we ended up wrestling the Nebraska team right away and beat them 56-9, and then we wrestled Bozeman, beat them 45-26, and then we wrestled Post Falls, who was state champs in Idaho, and we beat them 52-12. So we had some things rolling right away. Kate Klein, our other senior, ended up in second. We had a bunch of thirds and a bunch of fourths, fifths, and sixths, and I don't think we'd had anybody in for seventh and eighth, but our guys responded really well, and we're really excited. Post Falls has beat us the last couple of years, and now it finally got a little revenge for that one.
Who were some of these other kids that maybe caught your attention, your guys going against them, or you had a break and you were able to watch? I know that one kid we've been told to watch for is that Avery Allen kid from Bozeman, just a freshman, and he didn't disappoint in his first high school tournament, winning the championship at 132, I believe it was.
Correct, yeah. Very, very tough. Bozeman's pretty impressive. They've got 5 or 6 kids that are really good, and that Allen out of Bozeman, I know it seems like he disappeared for a little bit, but I remember him in junior high and watching like the Montana Opens and things like that. But yeah, he came out and wrestled tough. He beat, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he teched this guy from Post Falls in the finals, and who is a returning state champ, I believe. So yeah, pretty impressive, especially for a freshman to come into a 6-state tournament and not be in awe of it. He seemed really comfortable when I watched him. And our kids too, a lot of those guys, we travel all over the place, so they kind of thrive on they thrive on tournaments that are tough, and that's why we're trying to get them ready for February, and that's how we do it. We try to go to the toughest things possible. So.
And then there were so many tournaments and invites and some dual meets and everything over the weekend. When you get done with your own, are you popping into track wrestling and seeing what's happening in Livingston and Havre and Cascade? And I think there were a couple out west, I believe, on the western side of the state as well, just to kind of see where everybody's at early on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of in charge of the Class A polls, and I'm just this afternoon, I worked on it a little bit Sunday, and this afternoon I'll try to get some some realistic looks at where everybody's at, and that's always kind of fun to do. Everybody's, I'm sure, in the same boat. We're anxious to get started and see where we're at. The first couple of weeks you get tired of beating on each other, so now we get a chance to actually go out and see where we're at, and we know what we got to work on, and I'm sure everybody's in the same boat. So yeah, it's just, Montana wrestling's exciting, and we're looking forward to the venture for sure.
Well, yeah, we appreciate you emailing those polls our way. I know that's something the wrestling fans like to check out, even though, the cliche, those polls don't matter, which in theory they don't, but it's nice to see who's kind of gauged where each week in and week out. So we do appreciate you sending those over. I don't know if I've ever asked you, do you ever sleep during this time of year?
No, that's a waste of time, man. You can't sleep during this time of year. Yeah, it's a busy time of the season, and I'm sure all the wrestling coaches are the same way. A lot of our kids drop weight. Well, coaches are probably the same way. They drop a little weight too, because it's not a 5-day-a-week gig; it's a 7-day-a-week gig. So yeah, it's a busy time of the year, but I love it. I look forward to it every year, and we've got a great bunch of kids that make that job a lot easier than it is. So yeah, it's a fun journey, no doubt.
Sydney, of course, not the only Class A program that was hosting some tournaments over the weekend. Both Livingston and Havre had some tournaments as well. Laurel getting the best of the Ranger invite, 180 points for them. Meanwhile, Livingston co-oping with Big Timber there, second place, 177.5. Again, these results are at montanasports.com. And Havre started the weekend with the duels first and then moved into the invite, where Great Falls High ran away with that one. 242 points for the Bison of Coach Carranza. Of course, new faces, not necessarily new, but new titles, I guess we can say, at Great Falls High after Coach Comack heading over to the University of Providence. Seymour was there in second, Lewistown third, then Cutbank and Havre. Again, montanasports.com. I'm just looking right now at the results the scoreboard page from Prep Wrestling over the weekend. And then one of the fun ones for some of the smaller schools to open the season every year, of course, the Cascade Badger Invitational. Coach Lorang and the Badgers welcoming a ton of teams from around the state of Montana. Great Falls High won that one as well, so they were actually dual winners at different tournaments. Whitehall was in second place, a point back. Townsend's going to be a team to contend with in Class B, as will be Jefferson and Columbus Absorki. And some of the matches in there that really caught our attention, we were looking at a few of these. Tanner Cook of Columbus Absorki winning the 120-pound championship. We were looking at 113 as well, and we'll hear from Coach Lorang here in just a minute. But Lily Grismer, one of the female wrestlers to keep an eye on, because she could certainly be one of the six, or the top six, when it comes to the state tournament later on in February down in Billings. Remember, it's not Rimrock Auto Arena anymore. It's First Interstate Arena at Metro Park, so keep an eye on that one. And we mentioned the freshman when talking with Coach Melby. Great Falls High's got one. Irish Firthmeyer, the 132-pound champion, getting past Roper Mickey Conrad, a 12-7 decision right there. So again, these freshmen, you're going to want to keep an eye out on some of these guys. Easton Held to Townsend was a champ at 138. Like we said, Whitehall was in second place. Dallin Hoover at 145. But we wanted to chat with Coach Lorang about some of this competition, one of the deeper tournaments he's seen in Cascade in recent years. Well, Coach, the 2019 Cascade Badger Invitational, always one of those fun ones to open up the season. It's kind of ironic, kind of funny. Great Falls High's second tournament win of the weekend, looking at up in Havre as well. But Whitehall, Townsend, Jefferson, Columbus, Sims, Cascade, throw in Helena Capital, Fort Benton, Big Sandy, Conrad, rounding out the top 10. Pretty good tournament to get things rolling. You guys see a lot of kids. Coaches can kind of gauge where they need to make some of those improvements throughout these upcoming weeks.
Yeah. There was a lot of. This was the first year in a long time that I can remember that this tournament was as deep as it was. Talking with a couple of the other coaches, this was. Usually it's not an overly tough tournament, but this year it was a pretty tough tournament. And we had some good quality matches, and wasn't a lot of quick pins as you'd expect early on, and there was some back and forth battle. So there's going to be a lot of good kids out in the especially in the southern BC. We're getting a little deeper, and that northern BC's got some pretty decent kids as well.
When you look through the results, first of all, we'll start with your team. Caden was crowned the champ at 170. I believe Lily and Eli were both runners-up, I think. I'm trying to remember if there was anybody else in those championship matches for you guys. But what did you see from your kids that you liked, this early on?
The thing that I liked the most was our kids really showed they were ready to go. They were showing some physical stuff we've been working on. They were excited. They were hungry. We're pretty young, but they really improved within the 2 weeks that we've had practice, 2.5 weeks. And when it came time to wrestle, they were really working on everything that we'd been preaching in practice. Just a lot of the technique that we're going to have to work on to clean up is the big thing. We had 8 kids wrestling in the tournament. We had 4 placers, so that was pretty good. We had a 5th place in there as well, so that was a pretty good showing for us, especially being a C school and not an overly big C school.
And then looking at Lily Grismer, we had fun with our female wrestling documentary we did last year, and she's certainly one of the ones going to draw eyeballs. 113 maybe wasn't what we expected, but the runner-up finish is pretty sweet.
Yeah. Unfortunately for her, we had some scale issues that morning of, and we got on and checked our weight, and then went back in and jumped on, and we were 0.4 over. So that was kind of a coaching error there, as well as an athlete error, but it's a learning lesson for both of us. She would have most likely won that tournament, and she is a girl, but she's going to be one of those ones that, I wouldn't want to wrestle her. I mean, she's a tough kid, and, I've been around her since she was just a little kid, when her and my daughter were wrestling together, and she's going to be one to watch out. She could also get that top 6 finish, as well as Eli.
What about some of the other competition roaming around in the tournament? Irish Firthmeyer's a kid. We've been talking about freshmen. That's the theme coming into 2019-2020. He was a champ at 132 and is certainly a kid that wrestling folks should keep their eye on this season.
Oh yeah, Irish he's a tough kid. He beat Townsend's state placer in the first round after the pigtails. He beat him 10-9 at the last with 1 second left, and that kid, he's a goer. He's Great Falls High is really deep in that weight. They have 2 state qualifiers just on their JV at that weight class, and he's the number 2 kid. He's going to be somebody to beat.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Wish you luck in these coming weeks. And, yeah, we'll be looking for the Badgers to make a little bit of noise down in the big barn in Billings on the day after Valentine's Day. We're spending the romantic weekend fighting for state championships this year.
That's right. Yep, that sounds good. Looks like my wife will have to come down.
And one of the other big ones, the Owen Invitational in western Montana, of course, bringing in teams from all around the region over there. Florence had some champions. Superior was in there. Looking at some of those places, Bridger Williams of Hamilton's going to be a kid to watch out for. He was at 160 on opening weekend. Libby had Trey Thompson win at 152. Frenchtown was there. Watch out. We talked about Jake Bibler being a 3-time state champion. He was the first place winner at 132. Eureka, Gunnar Smith's going to be a kid to watch, a champion there as well. He won at 126 pounds. Walker Dyer of Frenchtown, of course, right there with Bibler. Plenty of those, but the one that really caught my attention was 182 pounds, a young man by the name of Kyler Alm. Now, if you remember, it was last football season, not this past one, the year before. We did a story after the season was over because Kyler Alm was injured during that football season in a subdural hematoma, some pressure going on in the brain, and not only was his future athletic career in doubt, we're talking about life-threatening type of stuff going on. He was in the ICU over in Missoula, was eventually able to get out and get into a normal hospital room, and that was kind of where the magic happened. We did the story on Missoula Loyola and Big Timber specifically, though they weren't the only schools. Their football teams and schools kind of rallied around for Kyler Alm and started raising money. We're talking thousands of dollars, some gift cards, everything to go towards medical costs, to go towards food for the Alm family. And Kyler has kind of kept me posted a little bit on the rehab and the progress, and came back out for football this year, although unfortunately he had to retire. Just a lot of jarring in football, obviously, and that was a tough decision for him. But I know wrestling is the real true love. And he was back out on the mats for the first time. And how about this? Your 182-pound champion getting past Trey Green in 1:45, the pinfall there for Kyler Alm. So we wanted to catch up with him because that's kind of a cool story. We had a chance to catch up with him about what it was like to be back on the mats, and how about winning a title in tournament number 1. Well, Kyler, it's kind of one of the cool comeback stories in Montana, and we were excited when you were back out on the football field, and obviously, unfortunately, that didn't work out the way that we wanted, but I know wrestling is where your heart's at. What was it like being back on the mats this weekend at the Owen Invite?
Oh, it was awesome. You know, I finally get to wrestle after missing all last season. It was, you know, I just had an awesome time, and it was like I'm having fun again.
It always helps to win, obviously. That's the joke. But being crowned a champion the first time you get back on the mat after all this, what was that feeling like? Is there, giving you the medal and, the fans are cheering and stuff like that? That's storybook type ending right there.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I had goosebumps, right when I got the pin, and I just realized, it's all coming together. I've been out for so long, and I get to come back and do this. It's pretty special and pretty humbling, if you ask me. I mean, it was just awesome hearing the crowd get into it during the match, and everybody's supporting me and telling me congrats and good luck, and it's just the best feeling that you can have.
You talk about support. We did that story after you got injured with Missoula Loyola and Big Timber were the two big ones. I know there were a lot more schools than that. That was kind of the football side of it. What about the wrestling side of it? I know you're friends with a bunch of these guys that you're going to see at tournaments every week. How excited are your buddies from around the state that you're back on the mats competing with them?
Oh, they're happy. I mean, they're all happy for me and glad that I'm able to be out there. And, it's just awesome when I get to be out there wrestling with kids from other teams because, I mean, last year I was coaching against them. And this year I get to be wrestling with them or against them, and it's just an awesome feeling.
Maybe some of them are disappointed because now they have to face you. So who's your biggest rival in a friendly rivalry? Who's somebody that you expect to have some good matches with throughout this winter?
Definitely Trey Green from, I think it's Superior. You know, him and I wrestled when we were little, and it's just a great friend rivalry that we'll have, and I don't know, it's going to be a good one. It could go either way. You know, Trey's a real strong wrestler, and he brings a lot of good stuff to the table, and so it'll be a good time.
What are your expectations throughout this season? You started the year off right, obviously, with a championship at your first tournament, so you've set the bar high. Where do we go from here moving toward February?
Just keeping the nose to the grindstone. Keep working day in, day out, and, you know, whatever happens, happens. You know, if I don't come away with first place, that's all right. Go back to the drawing boards and figure out what I did wrong and hopefully correct it the next week.
Nice. Well, we're glad to have you back on the mat, and hope that things remain going good for you, both health-wise and wrestling-wise as well. And for the fans that don't know, they need to keep an eye out because I'm sure you've got lofty goals come February 14th and 15th down in Billings.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I have big goals. My goal is to win a state championship, as everybody else is. And, you know, I'm going to just come out and give it my all, every match, every second. Hopefully can get it done.
So anyway, there's a little rundown of the opening weekend of prep wrestling in Montana. Again, we might have some fun and do some stuff like this throughout the wrestling season. Maybe transition it into basketball, into track and field once spring comes as well. Throw in some nuggets from some of the other sports and stuff like that. But hopefully you guys have a little bit of fun. We're not going to recap again every single match. There's just so many of them. But there are so many great athletes in Montana, and some of them have some pretty cool stories and some backstories going on. So once again, we highly recommend that coaches, fans, parents, anybody watching this right now, other athletes, if one of your competitors or buddies has a cool story, please send those our way. Richie.melby@ktvh.com, or simply send them to sports@ktvh.com, and we'll make sure that we make our way around the state as the prep wrestlers get set for February in the Big Barn. It's right around the corner.